It's actually weird to be back because I still don't know if I'm gone or I'm still here. So thank you for coming. I hope you had a chance to interact with some of our guests. We were talking about today about the importance of collaboration and networking and opening up your ears to hear what is happening out there. I won't take much time because we have two amazing speakers. For those of you that are here with us tonight, this is the last day of a program that, with a Malaysian delegation, very senior executives from different sectors, banking, government, primarily the finance sector, transport, if I'm missing any, insurance. So we have a whole bunch of industries in one room, and amazing founders that I see from the Valley and technology companies, so I hope you get a chance to meet and interact. Before we go into presenting our special guest for tonight, I would like to very briefly, because we didn't get a chance to actually hear what we do in corporate innovation, but we would like to start with a very brief video. This is a 3-minute video. It's in Spanish, but it has subtitles. And actually, this is actually the opening video of Innova Summit that we just finished, a corporate venture summit. And it's very important to me, actually, I made it, because it actually reflects why we do what we do. And I think you will, I hope actually you catch most of the messages that are inside, and hopefully you will reflect on them as you go back to your countries. So I will leave you with, the video is just 3 minutes. I hope you can read the subtitles.
Mamá, ¿cómo va a ser el mundo cuando yo sea grande?
No podemos continuar pretendiendo que no lo vemos, continuar el camino a la autodestrucción, bajo la concepción que todo es infinito, olvidando que los mecanismos que creamos de producción fueron concebidos para el bien individual, sin visualizar el daño colateral. Ya no podemos concebir los ecosistemas de forma aislada, ni en sistemas individualistas. Llega un momento en que el llamado se siente, el despertar, un llamado a producir el cambio, que solo puede llegar si actuamos juntos, en unidad. Podemos crear nuevas soluciones y nuevas esperanzas, cuidar el hogar que nos dieron. Podemos volver a ver el mundo con los ojos de un niño, imaginando, creando, explorando y volviendo a cuestionar otra vez. Podemos desafiar lo establecido, liderar a un nivel más alto de creatividad, inspirar a otros a impulsar el cambio. Podemos elegir escuchar nuestros corazones para conectar de verdad. Pero esto requiere acción. Tú tienes el poder de decidir cómo vas a vivir en este mundo, llegando a transformar tu vida y de todos a tu alrededor, así como las organizaciones que representas. Juntos tenemos el poder de elevar nuestro nivel de conciencia colectiva globalmente y así utilizar nuestro potencial en su máximo esplendor, la colaboración. Estamos viviendo en el momento de mayor conexión tecnológica de nuestra historia, teniendo a nuestro alcance todos los medios de comunicación posibles para el hombre. Podemos colaborar de forma remota, como nunca hemos visto antes. Entonces, ¿qué haremos con lo que esta oportunidad representa? Muchos creen que la tecnología por sí sola posee la respuesta y soluciona los mayores problemas de la humanidad. Pero hay más en esto. Es la conciencia con la cual lideramos la creación y el uso de la tecnología lo que hará que impactemos el mundo significativamente. La lección es nuestra. ¿Es que acaso no lo puedes ver? Con cada decisión que tomas, cada nuevo proyecto, cada nueva alianza, estás ayudando a crearlo. Pero no puedes tener miedo de quién eres y lo lejos que puedes llegar. ¿Y tú? ¿Cuál es tu propósito? ¿Estás listo para el desafío?
collaboration, consciousness, global consciousness, like why are we doing what we are doing? Technology alone can help us, but if we don't guide it in the right direction, it won't get us anywhere. So that's actually the key message. So now I would like to very briefly explain you a little bit of, give me 1 second. So actually, this holistic approach to corporate innovation, why are we talking about holistic? We are actually, something that we talk about it a lot this week, is about that you as a leader have the power to change your organization. You can actually conceive your organization as it will be in 20 years, but maybe you have the power to change things today. But you have to change from within. So we look at a holistic perspective. You can't look at things isolated. Talking about purpose again. So we are looking in a holistic approach where you are looking at the processes, the strategy, the community in which your community is involved, and also looking at your processes, no? Your culture, that we talk so much about it this week, how important it is to align your people with it. I will go very briefly with this because I don't want to take much time. But this is actually the journey that we get companies to go through, looking at culture, of course, doing an assessment, getting them in a very deep, immersed internal innovation process so they can actually crowdsource ideas to find what are the potential solutions to the company's existing challenges. And then why not engaging them with open innovation like we saw this week as well, how important it is for companies to collaborate and find technology out there that they are not able to conceive internally. Actually in Innova360, like we saw for example at Plug and Play, how important it is for companies to be connected with the ecosystem. In many cases, most probably, they can't do it alone. They need to collaborate and partner with other companies, associations, as we saw, universities. And actually, that's what we do with Innova360. We have a lot of content that we provide to our customers. We do Innova News, for example, that we distribute to over 30,000 people with content, events, weekly events, monthly events, evening events, and our Innova Summit that we just finished. This is just very quick snapshot of some of the events, but actually we are putting together like the whole ecosystem together. Maybe some of these companies you won't recognize because maybe they are like local, some of them are global, but we work with large organizations and helping them connect them with the ecosystem. Very briefly, because we can go very deep into the subjects of how to drive internal innovation or how important it is to do or how to do open innovation. But that will probably be for another time when we have more time. Because as I say, we have two amazing guests tonight. And we are actually very short of time. So thank you very much again for coming. And I will invite our first guest. I don't know where is he, Simon, there you are. Ashwin from Google, Head of Artificial Intelligence, who will tell us a little bit about the future and what is ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. You want me first? So it's a good trick. Thank you, Laura, for giving the speakers wine before the speech so that make sure the speech is entertaining but incoherent. So my name is Ashwin. I'm Technical Director of AI in the CTO office at Google Cloud. And what I want to talk to you is about innovation. It's about how Google innovates. So let's just start with Google. Have anyone heard of Google? Yeah, people use Google. That's Google. It was started in a small garage not far from where you're sitting. And the mission of the company has not changed from the first day. And that's actually one of the critical things about innovation, to be focused on a mission and stick with it, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Every Googler can recite this to you. Google today is much larger. We have 9 products with over 1 billion monthly active users each. It's the only company to even come close to that. Facebook is second with 3. The latest one is Photos. This is when these products were launched. So Photos is actually the fastest product to reach 1 billion users. What's interesting and less well known is that all of these products are driven by AI. In fact, so much so that our CEO declared that Google is an AI-first company. You've seen quotes like this everywhere. AI is used in every product and behind the scenes in the operations of Google at every level, down to our cafeterias, our data centers, our recruiting, everything runs on AI. There are thousands of models, AI models that go to work every second, every millisecond when you touch a Google product. We use AI in Google search. You can predict from a set of results which particular results any particular individual will like with over 80% accuracy. A lot of our search is now driven through voice, all of which of course uses AI. We have to understand the speech, we have to understand the words, we have to understand the language and translate that into a search query. We can also produce speech. You can talk to an AI-based assistant like your Google Assistant, or like Duplex, which was announced recently. I won't run you through the demo because you've probably all seen it. But the assistants now pretty much sound indistinguishable from human voice. All of that is based on AI. Google Photos, which is the product that just reached 1 billion users, is an amazing product. If you're like me, you have tens of thousands of photos in your photo library. You've long since been able to cease trying to organize them. Google Photos will automatically find you photos that you want. If I want pictures of that church in Germany I visited with my daughter last year, I can just ask that question. I can even ask it in natural language, and up come the pictures. Because we recognize everything about the scene. This is a scene with a beach and boat and water and umbrellas. It'll find you. You don't have to tag anything. It's all automatic. We can also do this with video. If you upload a bunch of videos, or you search within a video, you can say, show me videos with cars in them, or tell me what's in the video, and we'll recognize the entire video. You can understand what you sketch or draw. So this is someone trying to sketch on a Google surface, and the AI is saying, I see a car, I see a police car, and recognize what it is with very high accuracy. We can predict what you're going to type. So if you use a keyboard, or you're writing an email or a text message, we can actually, 12% of all Gmail responses now are driven by AI. And what's interesting is this AI is personalized to each and every user. And the data for this AI never leaves your phone. It's done completely privately on your device. We don't have access to it. So privacy preserving AI is here at a scale of 1 billion users. Google Translate, we can translate 120 something languages now into each other. You can type to it, you can talk to it, you can show a picture. And we can also do real-time speech translation. You can speak in one language and have your listener hear in a different language, all in real time. And again, you don't need the cloud to do this. It all runs on your phone. You can do it without internet connectivity. That's Waymo. There's an announcement this morning, if you saw the news. Waymo announced, get ready for completely driverless cars. In Phoenix now, we'll be able to summon a car, it will drive up with no driver inside. Self-driving cars, all driven by AI. You probably saw this was a few months ago. The world's Go champion was defeated by an AI. What's interesting about this AI is that it learned to play Go on its own, with no human intervention. The same AI also runs our data centers. We use 40% less energy than the average data center. And this cooling was created by AI. It was the same AI that plays Go. It was given the challenge of managing the cooling in a data center as a game. You win the game by reducing energy costs. And of course, it wins the game. It's much better than humans. So we use this now across our massive infrastructure. Imagine 9 products with 1 billion users running all this AI in sub-millisecond response time. We have huge data centers the size of small towns across the world. If you go inside of them, you'll see banks upon banks of computers running AI and other kinds of software to make Google tick. We're connected across the world with our own fiber optic cable. Google runs about 25% of the world's internet traffic. We don't use the public internet because it's too slow, it's too unreliable for us. If you're in Malaysia trying to pull up a YouTube video from a user in Australia, you don't want to have to wait a second or two. You want it instantly. We can deliver that, the public internet cannot. While we do all of this AI, we are very acutely aware of some of the social impacts of AI. We have a set of AI principles that govern every project at Google. We have to go through a principles and ethics committee to decide if that project should or should not be undertaken. The projects have to be socially beneficial, they have to be unbiased, they have to be safe, they have to be accountable, and so forth. So we're very focused on the principles of fairness and bias or unbiasedness behind AI. So that's kind of a snapshot. I could probably talk to you for hours on how all this AI works. What I want to talk instead is, so in line with what you've been hearing all week, how do we create this kind of innovation at this kind of scale in one company? And the answer actually goes back to something Laura was talking about as well, and then Rajiv talked to you earlier about. Remember the three parts to an organization? The brains, the bones, right? All your organizations have brains. All your organizations have bones. What makes the difference is the third part, the nerves, the culture. So Google has, from the very first day in the garage, deliberately created a culture that promotes innovation at massive scale. So I want to talk a little bit about how we do this. This is a former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt. He says, innovation is always about small teams of people who have a new idea that typically people around them don't understand, particularly the higher-ups don't understand. If you give them the freedom to innovate, they will succeed at something new. This is why startups work when big companies fail. So Google is essentially, and I'll show you how we do this, hundreds of little startups inside. So there's now 4 main elements to Google culture. And I'll go through each one of them. The first one is probably the most important, which is you always start with the user in mind. So this is an example we use in our training. Imagine you're charged with designing a mobile for a baby in a crib. You come up with this very pretty design. It's got these nice colors and these vehicles, and you put it out there, and everyone thinks it's going to be very successful. You put it out there, and babies are like, they don't like this at all. What's going on? If you put yourself in the mindset of the baby, who's actually the user, not the parents, not the executives, not the salespeople, the baby's seeing that. Completely uninteresting. So we always start by putting ourselves in the minds and the shoes of the users of the products. Astro Teller, who runs Google X, which is our moonshots factory, that's where Waymo came out of, for example, he has this nice quote, shifting your perspective is better than being smart. So one of the things we did, for example, was in Google search, we used to have the search page with a bunch of ads on the right, text ads, which is how we made money. But it turns out that users actually would rather see more detailed information than ads on the right. So we got rid of the ads. The ads team complained, of course. That's where we make money from. But ultimately, you have to do what's right for the user, not necessarily just what's right for your bottom line. If you stick with the user first, you will improve your bottom line as well. That's one of the principles that drives innovation. Another very key aspect is, we call it 10x thinking. I'll give you an example of this. In 2008, we launched a product that was at the time called MapMaker, it's now Google Maps, with a couple billion users. And we started launching this, and it turns out that there were these big floods in Pakistan, and we wanted to help people find their way and sort of know where the floods were. So we partnered with the University of Punjab and created a tool to allow users to start to annotate the map. And the users started to augment this map, and we saved a lot of lives during that flood by opening the tool up to the users. And we thought, great idea. This also helped us develop a better map. So the map maker then drove Google Maps for many years. In 2017, MapMaker was shut down. Anyone know why? All the roads are mapped now. Google Map has mapped the entire world. Now we continue to update the maps, and AI helps with that. But that's the example of 10x thinking. When we started with in 2008, we had a map. It was not great. We didn't think, well, can we add one more city? Can we add 10% more of the world? The challenge from leadership was, this looks great. Tell me how you're going to map the entire world. Let's take the biggest challenge you can imagine. So we start, for example, another example, data centers. Google data centers, as I mentioned, that's what they look like inside. They use 50% less energy and have 7x more compute power than the average data center from any cloud computing company. So we take this to our leadership. Leadership is, that's great, but why are we using 50% less energy? Can we actually get rid of carbon energy completely? Completely. So we focus on sustainability. Google has been carbon neutral for 12 years. For the last 2 years, we are running on renewable energy. So when you put a really big challenge in front of people, really hard challenge, that's why we call it a moonshot. Your company will rise to the occasion and find a way to solve it. If you give them 10%, 20% incremental goals, they will work incrementally. Give them 10x goals. Okay, third part is freedom to experiment. How do we then, you've given them this 10x goal, how do they solve it? You want to give people a lot of time to experiment. Remember, lots of small teams of startups. Every Googler has 20% free time. 20% of your time you can spend on doing anything you want. Doing anything you want resulted in Google News, which is almost 1 billion users now, Gmail, Google Maps, much of what we use, and lots of failed stuff along the way as well. It was just some engineer saying, hey, I've got some free time. What can I go do? That's fun. That's completely unrelated to my OKRs. Every single person at Google has this power, every day. Give people time to think. Another part is this garage mindset. Remember the whole startup ecosystem. A lot of companies, when they start, they say, okay, we have this big problem to solve. This is going to take a year or 6 months or 2 years to solve. Take your time. Go off, I'll give you lots of resources, come back with a solution. You're on the first line there. You'll try a bunch of ideas, a lot of them will fail, maybe you'll try 6 months, 9 months. You might have a couple of successes at the end. We are focused on iterating fast. Prototype something, fail fast. Prototype something, fail fast. We can try hundreds of ideas in the time most companies can try a few dozen. Most of them will fail, but at the end, you'll have a lot more successes than if you just had a few long-term ideas. In short, iterative, not the waterfall model. So here's an example. We have this moonshot idea. Could we put a computer on your face? Could you put your phone on your face? Google Glass idea. People seen Google Glass? Right? They have computer built in. We all know it failed, right? Lots and lots of prototypes were built, very fast, weeks, months. This wasn't a big project. This is as soon as we can get computing on your face. So it turns out that for a number of reasons, the public, the market was not ready for this. We didn't want to be wearing these things all the time. The little lights telling people we are recording them and the rest of it. The battery issue, the privacy issue, the connectivity issues. It turns out this is actually one of our most successful products. When you take it to the enterprise, you take it to the manufacturing world, you have workers who can't use their hands because they're busy wearing a computer on their face. We have doctors using this during surgery to get information about the surgery in real time with 3D and VR. We also have millions of kids using Google Cardboard. You can buy a simple version of Google Glass for $10 at your local store and play with it. Lots of kids getting inspired. So out of this seeming failure came a success, quite different from what we had anticipated, but that's the whole part of prototype and pivot. If you come inside Google anytime, you'll see Google is, as I mentioned, hundreds of experiments. Every product and everything that's not yet a product, just people playing with ideas all the time. And that's how we create this massive engine of innovation. Everywhere, from the most junior people, the interns. You don't need permission to do any of this. We also have this, if you're going to iterate and you're going to also fail, you're going to have lots of failed projects. We have this concept of a blameless postmortem. If something goes wrong, if a Google data center goes down and your biggest customer is pissed off at you, right? We never blame a human individual. It's never any person's fault. It's always the system's fault. Let's figure out what the system was wrong, what happened wrong in the process, and let's fix that so it doesn't happen. No one loses their job because Google Glass doesn't launch. Last one, unconstrained collaboration. So you did the Google tour on Monday, right? You can see one of our core principles is to build a place to work where Googlers can be happy, healthy, and heard. We want you to enjoy being there. There's music rooms, there's workshops, there's woodworking, there's table tennis, there's food. I mean, we want you to enjoy being there because people who are happier are more productive. The last one is important. We want Googlers to be heard. We have, every week, our leadership, Larry Page, Sergey, our board members, our CEO, will stand up on stage in front of all of Google and take questions from any junior entry-level intern who wants to ask them a hard question. All questions are asked with completely publicly. There's no anonymous questions, and with complete confidence that there will be no reprisal. You can ask anything you want, you can challenge your VP on anything you want, there's never reprisal. Every Googler gets heard. We do massive surveys every year. We want you to be happy and heard, but we measure that. Google runs on data and AI. Every year we do massive surveys, we listen to people, we take feedback. Everything inside Google is open. If you were working at Google, you could look at my calendar, you can look at my reporting structure, you can look at my OKRs. You can look at your VP's OKRs. Any intern can look up their VP's OKRs and vice versa. Everything is public. Every document, every line of code. OKR is your objectives and key results, or the metrics by which you measure your performance evaluation. Everything is public. When I give you feedback on your performance evaluation, it's public. Everything is public, by default. Now, a few things, your salary has to be kept private, some financials have to be kept private, so a few things, but by default, everything is open. Everyone's calendars are open. It's not just free busy. You can see who I'm meeting and why and when and what the agenda is. Anyone can change any meeting. Everything is open. And we also make sure it's very easy to collaborate. You have a document, 1, 5, 10, 100 people can jump on the document, write comments, edit, everything in real time. There are no versions. You don't have to ship email versions, email documents around, keep track of which is the latest version. Everything just interacts real time. This presentation, I just shared it from my phone to Laura up on the screen. Everything is instantly shared. This is called G Suite. And inside of that is AI that is going to work for you to help you find stuff, to give you insights. If you have a massive spreadsheet, for example, you can just ask a question in natural language and get a result back. Because the AI does all the work for you. No email attached. You don't have to email attached because everything is, I just send you a link to the doc. So docs are available. Right? So you always have the latest version of the doc. Never I'm on V42 and you have only V43 or vice versa. Now to do this, you need to trust everybody. At Google, without manager approval, any employee, however junior, can buy a new machine. You can make travel. You can travel. You don't need approval to travel. You don't need approval to purchase. You can spin up thousands of machines on a data center and use them for computing, no approvals. You can take vacation. Nothing requires approvals, because we trust everyone to do the right thing for the company. So we do all of this inside Google in the last couple of slides. So of course we get challenged by our board and our leadership to think even bigger. How do we 10x this? Well, the way we 10x this is make this innovation available to all the other companies in the world. So that if you look at Google today, from that little garage startup, right, you become very large. How do we do the same thing? How do we help our customers? How do we help all of you do the same thing inside your company that we've done within ours? How do we take all of this technology we've developed, the digital backbone of Google, make it available to you? The answer to that is the cloud. The cloud makes everything open and public and available to everyone through a browser, through your website, wherever you might be. Google Cloud is, we've invested over $30 billion in building up our cloud offering. We have the mission is to use the best of Google's innovations, everything I just showed you, to help you solve your problems, to help you transform your business. We have very large companies in every sector using our products. Pretty much all of the Fortune 500 companies are Google customers. We do very large-scale automated document understanding, customer experience, decision-making for insurance, very large-scale logistics. AirAsia is also using it to completely digitally transform their company. The company is moving to a data company now. It's all built on Google. Because we have all the technology, you can just use it. So that's how we're going to address this 10x moonshot of ours, to transform the whole world into being one. My role is within what we call the CTO office. Our role is co-innovation. We understand that companies can't always do this on their own, and we cannot do it for you either. We don't have knowledge of your business, your verticals, your customers. You have that knowledge. We understand transformation and technology. So we partner together with our companies, and we transform together. We innovate together. And so my office, the CTO office, works with your CTO, your leadership, to help put a transformation plan in place and then bring in the right people to execute on it. Okay, I'll stop there. If you want to try any of this, it's all open. There's a free tier for everything. You can go to cloud.google.com and try it yourself. And that's my LinkedIn if you want to get in touch with me. Thank you. We have time for questions? Yeah, we have time for questions.
It has to be loud. Loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
No questions?
Someone's got to
Sure.
Yeah, can you, when you're an AI expert, can you explain how AI is applied in one of the things that you did just now, the matching or search or something?
Oh, how the AI works?
Yeah, example.
Okay. So about 6 years ago, maybe 8 years ago now, I'll show you one slide. I had a slide on this, but in the interest of time, I skipped it. There was a new technology developed. It's called deep learning. It is loosely modeled after the human brain. The way it works is this. In the old days, if you wanted to write AI, you would write a bunch of rules. If you're writing a spam checker, you'd say, if the email has these words and it's from this user, then it's probably spam. You write all these rules. That's not scalable. So what we do instead is you build a layer of what we call neurons. They're not really like human neurons, but they're kind of. Where the neurons take in local data, connect it up, make a local decision, and pass it on to the next level. They do this super fast because it's a very simple computation. And we do this at big scale. This is a very simple neural network. There typically will be hundreds of layers like this. And the magic of this is that all you do is you give it the raw data. You all have data. You have data about your customers. You have data about your processes, your supply chain, your marketing. You have data. You feed the data in, you get outcomes out, and the system learns all of the intermediate layers automatically. The AI is all learned by itself. And we've done this now at scale in every product, in text, in video, in speech, in business decision making, in marketing. All of our marketing campaigns are automated by this. Ad placement, everything, customer experience. This technology is amazing. It's called deep learning. And as part of what we do at Google, in our sort of bid to help the whole world transform, we've open sourced this. So TensorFlow is the technology. It's open source. You can get it now and use it. We're very happy to have people use it. It's the most widely used deep learning framework in the world.
How is it different from machine learning?
So in machine learning, in traditional machine learning, you would take the data and then you would have to write the feature extractors for the intermediate layers. You would have to say, if I'm trying to recognize a dog or a cat, I need to look for edges and curves and colors, and you have to write all the things you're looking for. And then the system learns that. Here you don't have to know what you're even looking for. The system learns it automatically. So it's the next level of automated intelligence. We even have AI, I didn't have time to talk about it today, that can write the AI for you. If you don't even want to do this, we have AI that builds AI that will do this for you. Anyone can do it. You can have, we have my high schooler did this in high school. You go to a website and you tell the AI, I want to build an AI to do this, and it will build it for you. It's very, very easy. So that's part of the power of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ashwin, I just want to find out when you work with clients, right? And this could be across the globe. What would be, in your experience, the best model that's worked where the client, of course, will get something out of it, and it's kind of like a win-win?
Yeah, I think the best model is there's sort of three parts to this. The leadership has to be bought into a big vision. If you're trying to make little incremental changes, there are many ways to do it. You probably hire Accenture or Deloitte to help you with that. Right. Great companies. By the way, they're partners of ours. We work with them as well. Right? Because ultimately you need them to do the very large scale implementation. But if you're bought into a big transformation, we completely want to reinvent the way we work. Right? So that's the big vision. The leadership has to be committed. That's one. The second thing is, there has to be a really hard problem that you don't know how to solve and we don't know how to solve. Because that's what gets Googlers excited. Right? Remember, look at the model here, right? We're not telling people what to work on. They have freedom. So we get them excited to work on your problem because it's so hard you haven't solved it yet. No one knows how to solve it. But if you solve it, that will be a game changer in your industry. It'll put you way ahead of your competition because your competition doesn't know how to even approach that problem. So we start with a hard problem, we start with the leadership vision to solve it, and then comes the simplification. This is the startup part, right? We now simplify it down to a very simple use case we can start on now that you can start to show low-hanging fruit, show quick wins so that your board doesn't get on the case. You do need to show results in 3 months and 6 months. So we want to make sure we're showing results as we go, but with the eye on the big problem. And so what we do is we get involved, we work with you very closely to help you all the way there and for you to help us all the way there. So we also cannot invent technology without a problem to apply it to. So it's both of us together. So if you have that willingness to work together, if you just want a vendor to come and solve a problem or a consultant, we can't do that. We want to be a partner with you. So that's the real secret.
Is there a size of company that you work with? Like do they have to be Fortune 500 or there's probably an assortment of small, medium?
The size of company. We work with a lot of companies that are garage startups, and we work with a lot of companies. We work with pretty much every Fortune 10 company that you can imagine. Right. Now, if you want to get a lot of the high-powered resources involved, if you want to get the CTO office, you want to get the VPs personally working with you, probably the bigger ones get that more attention on that. But every once in a while, we have again, it's freedom to, I can choose to work with a company, but I think there's a lot of value, even though it's not necessarily a big dollar value here. But I think solving this problem is going to be a game changer. I can choose to work with them. It's up to me. But typically, the companies that go in for large-scale co-innovation are companies that have a little bit of breathing room in their budget and sort of the stamina and to go with it. You know, we were talking about dinner, Eric, about how you will be disruptive, right? In your business, you can disrupt yourself. We can, you know, we would get engaged with that, not your bread and butter daily business, 10% cost reduction, that's a 10% problem. The 10x problem is, how do you put yourself out of business? That kind of problem would be super interesting. And you know how to do it, and we have the technology to help you. So that's what we look for typically.
I have a question in the development of AI, the speed in which it's growing. There's this whole issue between humanism and what AI is getting. What's your view on that? Will one day machine control man?
Yeah, well, one day machine control man. So the way we are, one of our primary missions is to develop technology that is helpful to humans. So when we develop AI technologies, it's typically not to replace a human, but to help a human. So for example, I'll give you an example of something that's been super successful recently. We launched a system called CCAI, Call Center AI, that helps you with call centers. And we have the largest telco in America using it. We have eBay using it all across Europe. You call in and you have AIs to help with the call center. It's a huge cost for a lot of companies. Right? But we're not putting call center agents out of business. What we're doing is we are helping with the mundane problems and then routing to the right call center agent. The AI continues to listen in and will automatically assist the agent in doing their job better. Agents are happier, the retention goes up, their success rate goes up, the customers are happier. They get better scores on their surveys. So the AI is there to help the agent do the better job. So we're always thinking of how do we help humans rather than how do we compete with humans.
Do you build a governance structure very clearly on that? Because there's on the flip side, what happens with AI is that someone uses it, you know, for the control of the world or something negative. How do we, you know, govern that? There is, I don't think there are clear framework. Is there? Are we working on a clear framework on that?
Yeah, we have actually a lot of work going on the framework to govern AI. So we have tools that can look at bias in AI. We have tools that can look at utility of AI. We have tools that look at explainability. Can the AI explain what it's doing? So there's a lot of research. Google has over 1,000 PhDs in AI working on various kinds of AI problems. And these problems are some of the problems we're working on. We have technology that can help with that. Now, if some rogue individual wants to take a technology and split it away to another country, do something with it, obviously we can't police everything. But we do have tools to help with the ethical use of AI, and we're very focused on that.
Yeah, so my question was along the lines of, should we want to start to peek into how those tools operate? Is that open source knowledge? Can we access that?
Pretty much everything is open source. There are blogs on it, there are papers on it, we publish pretty much everything we do. So yes, in short answer is yes. There are some of the models that we train, like for example, we have the speech recognition models, etc. The models are neural network models, they're hard to look into. But a lot of the code is open source and available. And we'd also, when we work with you, we're happy to share information. We share a lot of knowledge with our customers because again, we feel that it's part of this, you know, for the visitors, it's part of the Silicon Valley mindset. We feel that a rising tide lifts all boats. Everyone helps everybody else. We help our competition. You know, you hear about Apple and Google competing, or Apple and Facebook competing. Apple's a huge customer of Google. Google is a huge customer of Apple in turn. We cooperate constantly because ultimately it's good for everyone. So we share a lot of knowledge. Very little is kept private. So yeah, there's stuff, a lot of stuff is just public and it's on the website. You can go read it. And otherwise, if you're working with someone at Google on your business, they will share a lot of information with you. Okay.
Last one, maybe?
Ashwin, firstly, thank you for taking the time tonight to come and speak to us. And secondly, I have to be transparent and declare I work for a company that deploys artificial intelligence, both DNA and traditional machine learning for our customers. But my question is, one of the hardest challenges we find when approaching customers to deploy AI is not the technology, because we have super tools that you just explained, especially from Google. So the technology is difficult, but it's not the major challenge. The hardest challenge is for our customers to understand what they can do with AI. What is an AI versus an automation problem, for example? The fear of AI. And we just heard about jobs. We work on projects, huge automation projects that have a significant impact on employment, way more than any AI projects that we do. But we don't talk about it because we've been automating for 1,000 years, right? So how do you go about it, Google? What would be your commentary on how to help customers understand the power of AI, where to focus in their business, where AI can really generate business value for them?
It's a great question. You know, we don't start with the AI. We start with the problem. AI is a way of, it's sort of a more advanced way of doing data analytics at the end of the day, where the machine is detecting patterns automatically, right? And so we start with the problem, we start with the data they have. You look at start with the insights you would like them to get. And then you do a proof of concept to show them that, hey, we can get these insights for you. And then they're like, oh, that's cool. How did you do that? Well, here's the AI tool that did that. But we never lead with the AI, right? They do need to understand there is always this fear of job loss and other things. One of the best things, I'm trying to remember where we saw this. It was a talk, an IBM talk that I was at, where they talk about what happened in the then financial sector when the spreadsheets were invented. They expected millions of bookkeepers to do the jobs because you could just use a spreadsheet. If you go over that decade, you see the jobs in that sector have actually gone way up. If you look at Amazon and what happened when they started deploying robots in the fulfillment centers, their hiring has gone up, right? So the AI creates jobs, technology creates jobs, but the jobs are different. If you look at the bookkeeper example, the bookkeepers started to go out of business, but the financial analysts, demand for financial analysts grew. But now that you could keep your books, you have to make sense of this stuff. You need the analysts. So bookkeepers retrained themselves to be analysts, made more money, and the market and the revenue of that whole market grew. So I think the customers have to understand that there will be shifts in the job market, but there is a net positive to them as well as their customers. And so part of what we would try to do, and you would try to do, and as we are doing this, is help them understand that shift and help them understand how to navigate that in a way that's not threatening to the individuals concerned.
Just one question.
Do you have time?
Just one question, please.
That's Laura's the boss.
Yeah. Just a question. With the emergence of China technological industry, would it be a complement or competition to the industry? The view, please.
So I don't know what the official Google view is on this. So I'll tell you my personal view. It's all over. AI is a tremendously hard problem, and we need all of the world's brains to address, to try to solve it in a way that makes significant progress in the technology and the business and the societal impact without running into some of these kinds of issues we just talked about with the negative, right? So if there are folks in China who have some good insights into this, I personally love to work with them. I don't think that Google or any company or any country individually is going to solve everything. It's going to take all of us together. And that's kind of, again, the Silicon Valley mindset, right? Silicon Valley wasn't created because HP was successful or Cisco was successful. It took all of them together to do it. Even though a lot of them competed, but it still took cooperation. So I view it as an opportunity for us to put our best minds together. Think of the moonshot, think of the space station or the Mars mission. Ultimately, the US and Russia teamed up on the space station. But neither country could do it alone. So are we competing or we're cooperating? And the same is going to happen in the end. That's my view.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. Always inspiring what the future holds. We are right on time, actually, to welcome our next guest. We will change the subject a little bit. We will move into the world of finance and Insurtech and fintech. So please welcome Gopi Rangan. Actually, it will be like a more casual conversation.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have the opportunity to be here and talk to you. You are visionary leaders and thinkers inventing the future. So if there's anything I can share from my own experience and that goes into the work that you do, it is such an honor to have the opportunity to be able to do that. So thank you for inviting me. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me give you a quick introduction about myself, and then we will save most of our time on topics that you want to talk about. I do have a title for the presentation, but we don't need to go into a lot of slides and technical discussions. But if you do want to, we have the slides ready, you can jump into that. I want to talk about things that are important for you. I understand that this is the 4th day and the last session. So you have heard many things. You have heard many things again and again. So we don't need to repeat many of those things. I'm also interested to understand your perspectives on what you've seen about Silicon Valley. What is interesting to you? What popped for you? Did something change in your mindset? And I want to learn about that as well. Okay. Let's start with who I am. I'm Gopi Rangan. I live here in the Silicon Valley. I live further down south in Mountain View. I have an 18-month-old daughter. My wife and I have been in the Silicon Valley for a long time. I myself have lived here for like 20 years. I grew up in India. I moved to the US about 20 years ago. This has become home for me. First half of my career, I was an engineer, and the second half, I've been in venture capital. I now run a venture capital fund called Sure Ventures. I started the fund last year. And the main focus for the fund is to invest in Insurtech startups. The mission for the fund is to enable peace of mind for all individuals and businesses. And Insurtech is a front and center focus for that. I also invest in other areas in addition to Insurtech. Okay? So let me turn to you with the first question. Is this your first time in the Silicon Valley? Please raise your hand if this is your first time in the Silicon Valley. Fantastic. Welcome. Welcome to California. I hope this is first of many more visits in the future. What is different about Silicon Valley that you've learned in the past 4 days? Also, I'm a professor. I teach entrepreneurship at INSEAD, so I am very good at cold calling. So if you don't volunteer, I will volunteer you. So tell us, share with everybody, what is interesting to you about Silicon Valley? What did you find that is different, that changed your perception on technology or innovation or the world in general?
So I think in the last few days for us, what was very interesting is this, what I call the matchmaking capability of a lot of the players here, right? I mean,
tell me more. What do you mean by matchmaking?
So like
maybe pick an example from something that you saw in the 4 days.
We went to a company called Plug and Play. I mean, they were similar to 360 Lab as well.
Yes.
It's the ability to kind of bring investor, startups, and kind of bring them all together to achieve something. And I think that's unique, right? Because you don't find.
Do you see that in your home country happening, where large corporations and startups sit side by side and have conversations?
I see that happening with a lot of grit and will, but it hasn't happened yet. And I think it's, from what I've seen, this is probably the place where this is actually happening. And I know it's not done overnight, but it's. I think that's the reason why many people came here. In fact, of the people that we've met, a lot of the entrepreneurs are non-American, which actually personally surprised me as well. There's a lot of.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of, I mean, at least for me, was kind of like an eye opener, and kind of almost as a personal interest.
Yes.
I mean, I want to come back here and do something on my own, right?
Please do.
Yeah.
You're touching on two things. Let's talk about immigrant entrepreneurs. It's actually very difficult, extremely difficult, to find someone who was born in San Francisco and parents are from San Francisco and they grew up in San Francisco, they continue to live in San Francisco. That's a very rare species. Like, they don't exist. It's very difficult to find someone like that.
They go to.
Yeah.
Most of the people here are from elsewhere.
Yeah, but where do the people who are born here, where do they go to?
They stay here, but some of them leave elsewhere. But there are about 8 million people in San Francisco Bay Area all over. Most of those people are not from here. So 20, 30 years ago, this population was far less. The population has increased over the past few years, and it continues to increase. Now, I went to business school at INSEAD. I have 5 of my classmates. They just moved here with their bags and everything, and then they arrived here to look for a job or start companies. That type of attraction, I have not seen anywhere in the world. I have not seen people who can just show up and make a life. Not just make a life. I'm a local. I belong here. I can make a home. I'm not an outsider. That is very different. Now, I grew up in Chennai, in India. In Chennai, now I've left, I feel like an outsider in Chennai, but I could make a home in Chennai and feel local. But if I go to Delhi, I'm an outsider. I'm an outsider. I can never become a local. It's very difficult. And I would say the same thing about Kuala Lumpur, about other cities like maybe pick Shanghai. I cannot go to Shanghai and make a home. I will always be an outsider. But only in the Silicon Valley, outsiders can come in, make a home. You can be black, purple, yellow, doesn't matter. Your ideas matter. That to me is fascinating. Why is that?
That makes you feel at home.
This is a place where people don't, it doesn't matter who you are, it's your ideas that matter. What do you bring to the table? Can you inspire some thoughts? And most people are also quite well educated here. And there are mixing of cultures, different kinds of food and language and all those things. It's kind of considered normal. So it's okay to have an accent, and none of those things are barriers for success. Even not knowing English is okay. My English is not perfect, but I've seen various variations in English quality. That doesn't really matter. If you can write C++, that's more important. So that's very, very interesting. The first question about having corporates and startups sit next to each other, that is unique to Plug and Play. There are many other organizations that do that well, like Alchemist does that well. I think you have a speaker from Alchemist, the founder of Alchemist talk to you. But Plug and Play is so unique that it's one of the most friendliest places in Silicon Valley. If you're an outsider, you're coming to Silicon Valley for the first time, it's the best place to land. You'll find a lot of other people like yourselves who are new to the Silicon Valley and trying to immerse into the startup ecosystem. But you don't find a lot of people who are locals. Like, you don't find the top VC firms hanging out at Plug and Play. So there's a balance to that. I'm not saying anything bad about Plug and Play. I'm an advisor at Plug and Play. I've been an advisor, and I'm a huge fan of Saeed and what he has built. But there are some nuances that I want you to begin to pick up. Now, after the end of this trip, when you go back home, when someone says this is all fantastic, AI is not going to prevent, it's going to create jobs, you have to question. And then someone says, no, AI is going to kill all the jobs and it's going to be a dangerous thing, you have to question that too. So everything is questionable. Plug and Play is questionable. There are good things, and there are also things that before you begin to commit to something, before you move here and start a company, you want to think about all those things. That's very important to reflect on. What other things have you considered? What are things that inspire you to think differently about Silicon after you've been here in Silicon Valley for 4 days? Yes. Anyone else? Yes.
This was motivated by some of my group mates.
Okay.
When I went to Google,
Yes.
and I saw such freedom of doing things. Like I'm more used to regimented logistics and schedules, but there I saw so much freedom and so much food as well.
So that kind of casual atmosphere with a lot of flexibility for people, that is not very common.
Yeah, and that was what I was told, that creates, or that initiates creativity.
Yeah. So it's a very tactical way of looking at, like, can I give them free pasta and expect some creativity to come out of it? Like, that's the way newspapers write about it. But let's think about, if you walk into, which company do you work for?
I'm with the government.
You're with the government.
Yeah, but then I was telling my friends, I said, if you were to introduce this in the government service, nobody would be working.
Yeah, in some ways, I believe government is the ultimate goal, and in some ways, government is even better than Google. But we'll get to that piece. But let's take the example of a bank. So you pick your favorite bank, and you walk into the building. The first 20 people you meet, what do they do? What is their objective? What are they working on? They're selling. They're trying to get products done, and they're trying to serve customers today, and none of them have a vision beyond 6 months. So they're trying to get stuff done so problems don't happen. They are trying to generate revenue in the short term, like very short term oriented. And it's not trivial, it is important, but that's where most of the resources for any large bank or any established organization goes to. You walk into Google and you meet the first 20 people, what are they working on? Many years out, the product that they're going to work on will not be released for at least 2 years or 3 years, and it takes many years before it scales, unless it's Google Photos maybe, but even after that, to generate revenue on that, substantial reasonable revenue, it takes a long time. So Google employees are not working on here and now, they are working on the future. The employees that are working on here and now, the call center folks, and those tellers and all those folks, they're here and now. So the incentives for them are very different versus the incentives for people who are working on long-term projects. The knowledge workers tend to get attracted to the long-term projects, and for them, so I had unlimited vacation. Did any of you have unlimited vacation? I could go on vacation 364 days in a year, show up one day in a year. If I produce results, the company would be delighted to have me. I didn't do that, but there's this aspect of trust. You give free food. If you go to the first group of people that are here and now and producing results for today, they're going to bring a bag and capture all the food and take it home. Some of that happens at Facebook and Google type of places also. But for the most part, you put free food out. They are there because you avoid the time it takes to go to a restaurant and sit down and eat and come back and commute and wait in line. Or you take that burden out so they can focus on creativity. That's where it comes from. So we don't want to look at creativity like, can we give them coconut juice and expect them to produce some creative solutions? That's not what it is. But it's the mind, who are you dealing with? And why is it important? What is important for them? You give them unlimited vacation, you give them free massages, and you take care of dentists. There's a van that does dental service on campus. Like all of those little things that take away time from you, you take care of that. You treat them with a lot of trust. Then they produce magic for you. That's the kind of people. And that's because they're working on the future. But when you're working on here and now and producing results for today, the incentives are very different. You cannot give them unlimited vacation. It doesn't work. Okay, what else? Any other?
What kind of results do they expect? Since everything is based on results, they can already be working. Examples of results.
So I've heard there's this a friend of mine, without giving too many details of the specific project, worked at Google. When he was given a project, he was told that I expect one of two outcomes. One outcome is this is going to be so good, it will immediately have an impact on Google's business, a material impact. Now, that will be the result. Generate X dollars in revenue or get so many millions of users on the platform. So, project like that. I don't care if you get that. If you don't get that, the other outcome I want is I want this project to go up in flames. The flames should be so big, the entire world should see it. Like whatever you do, it needs to have an impact. That's what we're going for. So if you do something and it kind of blips a little bit, then that's not what I'm interested in. Take all the resources, do whatever you want, but at the end of it, it must be a blockbuster. It must be 10x. That's what Google's stock price holds up because of that continuous innovation. Not just Google, we keep talking about Google, but many other companies. LinkedIn is the same. It's all about growth and innovation. Once that stops, if there's any hint of reduction in growth, reduction in new ideas coming out, the stock is going to tank. So that's, to fuel that, they have to come up with new ideas. And people with such ideas, their style of thinking, those are the people that go and work for these kind of companies. So they're expecting huge flames going up because something didn't work and it blew up, or it does have a material impact. Yeah, it happens many times. Google has had many failures. Google has had, there was a buzz, there was Google Orkut, there's so many other social media platforms that they tried to build. I remember when I woke up one day and I looked at Buzz and I could look at all my neighbors. Who was there next door? And I felt like, oh my God, someone's going to get fired at Google for doing this, but no one did. Because that was part of the deal. When they got the product out, they expect that there will be bugs and there will be some issues, but very quickly they fixed it, but it didn't work. I'll give you another example that worked very well at Google. There was this company called Aardvark. You might know this. So they built a social search platform. So when you know exactly what you're looking for and easy to search, you can use Google search and you will go and get the right kind of data. But when you're looking for like something that other people might know, but it's not possible to get in documents. Let me think of something. Who was that actor that played the role of a woman, but he's a man, and I forget what the... Something like, yeah. So how do you search for this on Google? It's very difficult. You put the man, woman, female, male, it's very hard. It's language, but when I tell you, you know exactly what you're looking for, and you can tell me. And in a room full of people like this, you get the answer. So that's what they built. They built it as a platform, and what was very interesting is they could have gamified it. They could have said, oh, he gave the right answer, so he gets an extra point, and his point score goes up, and there's a leaderboard for best answer. They didn't do any of that. They said that, why is he doing that? Why is he giving the answer? Because he has the knowledge, and he wants to share it with the world. And the pleasure of sharing a knowledge which is useful for someone else is intrinsically satisfying. That's all. Nothing else. So they tapped into that. They tapped into that so much that people were on it all the time. They were answering all kinds of questions. It was supremely useful for people. They're suddenly uncovering knowledge residing in the back of someone's head that is incredibly valuable for someone, some other place in the world.
Sorry, what's the product called?
It's called Aardvark, and they shut it down.
Oh, Aardvark is it?
Aardvark.
Oh.
It's the name of an animal. So Google acquired this company. They shut down the product, and that company became the core of Google+. They built Google+. This team built Google+. So that's the style of thinking that these people are not just good technologies, they also understood human behavior in a very deep way. So that was very powerful. So those are the kind of examples you would see more and more in the Silicon Valley. Yes. I'm still patient. I'm going to wait for a few more ideas. I'm expecting that in the past 4 days, something controversial would have happened, or something you thought that's how it's being done. Now you've been exposed to something very different. Tell me something that you have seen different in the past 4 days. This side has been quite fun. I'm tempted to stay here and see if I can get some comments. Yes.
Continuation for this issue just now. What actually the problem of the local people here, they refuse to live here in the San Francisco.
Let me see if I understand the question. The problem, one of the problems that you see here is that people don't want to live here. Is that right? Why is that? Why do you think they don't want to live here? By the way, I have a lot of things I hate about Silicon Valley also. We can talk about that.
Because if I compare to my state in Sabah, Malaysia, so the local people, they prefer to stay or live in Sabah. While the foreigners from Philippines, from Indonesia, they like to go to the state, even illegal immigrants, they like to stay there. So this is vice versa, the situation.
So I'm not sure if I follow you entirely, but let me make sure that in the Silicon Valley there are people that come here.
Yeah. When you say that most people here are not local, so the question is that local people would have left. But,
okay,
but what were you saying just now was that let's say we start out with 2 million San Francisco, they still remain here, except that you have 10,000 foreigners coming in, therefore that's what's happening. So the locals actually go out, just like they were swamped.
The locals are not driven out. They are here. I'm sure some people are unhappy and the prices are too high and they moved out. And it's actually happening quite prevalent that many neighborhoods are getting gentrified and people aren't able to afford to live in the same place, so they get moved to different other neighborhoods. There's always stories about people leaving Silicon Valley to go to Austin or Seattle and other places. But net, if you look at U-Haul, number of U-Haul pickups that are one way into Silicon Valley and out of Silicon Valley. That's at the end of the year, if you match, there are more U-Haul trucks coming into Silicon Valley, 3 times more than U-Haul trucks going out. So that's an indicator of number of people. It is not a fair world in any way. It's very unfair.
That's a very interesting comment that was made. That in this area, Silicon Valley is supposed to have most ideas, wealthiest, and yet it cannot solve the problem of the homeless in the city.
It's a pity. I'm so disappointed to see that. If you look at greatest poverty in Silicon Valley, it's in the 2-mile radius around Facebook. Like East Menlo Park, East Redwood City, East Palo Alto. It's so sorry to see that. There's one side of the story that says 1 billionaire in Silicon Valley could solve all the problems.
So why is that? I mean, the best brains in the world are possibly here in Silicon Valley. But San Francisco has a very high homeless population. So why can't that be solved?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know why we're not able to solve this problem. It's such a sorry state.
The people here, there is this burning desire towards innovation and all that, making better life. But a simple thing as homeless can be solved. Why?
I really don't know. I hope that someone finds an answer to that question and creates solutions.
So actually we went to Singularity University and they're like, what are you doing to impact a bit of people today? That was kind of like one of the butting, right, abandoned over there. So the same way, there are a lot of homeless people here. What are we doing, right? It's not a billion, right? But
probably a few thousand people.
Maybe I share some personal observation about Silicon Valley. And this is a small thing, it might look like a small thing. So we went around to many companies. What I saw was a lot of cables and wires. And this is supposed to be the capital for technology. So that I couldn't understand that at all, to be honest, because every place I went to, including this place, has got a bunch of cable and people plugging in using conventional, because we have seen in our organization, in fact, I have told people that I don't want to see cable at all. So you just connect with this device using Bluetooth, fire up your presentation, and that's how you do it. So it's a small observation, but what it's showing is maybe, I mean, if you say controversial, then I'm going to be quite controversial.
Absolutely.
All this technology talk of Silicon Valley and all the things that you show, kind of not really walking the talk, if you ask me. So I mean, that's my contribution to what I saw.
Yeah, sometimes let me push that even more. Like, is this all a show? Like, is it just a small group of people in Silicon Valley doing all these cool things, and the rest of Silicon Valley just doesn't care? And do they get, are they all selfish about becoming wealthy and becoming popular and powerful, and they just don't care about their neighbors? And I'm an optimist, but I'm also scared that what if the answer is yes? What if the answer is yes, that these people are like that? And we're part of it. I don't know. I worry about it. I really don't know. I want to think that there are some foundational issues that create these problems, maybe public policy issues, or the way government has installed the tax policies and jurisdictions on how housing should be built, and various other things that are causing it. But I also don't want to stop that we put the blame on them and say that's where the problem is. It's not. We have to be able to solve. We have the brightest minds in the world. If we can't solve problems in our neighborhood, we have no business solving AI problems for the world. We have to be honest. We have to look in the mirror and say that we're not doing this. It's something that I reflect on. I don't have an answer, but it worries me. There's a lot of bad actors, many different types of bad actors, especially in the venture world. 4% of partners at VC firms are women. And that's ridiculous. An industry that's been around for like 50 years, it's ridiculous. How could you prevent women from getting into partnership roles and decision-making roles? It's almost like they're supposed to be the smartest people in the Silicon Valley, deciding where money goes and which entrepreneurs to fund, and they only have 4% of women in decision-making power at venture funds. I mean, that's horrible. There's clearly discrimination. No one's talking about it. Many large companies have come out and said that we have issues and we're going to fix it, including Google. But I'm waiting to see if there are some major changes that will happen. There are clearly biases that have been infiltrating throughout Silicon Valley in many areas. A lot of things have changed.
Yes. In fact, we see more solutions in the developing world using the augmented technologies, etc., than in the inner cities of the West. So there's something wrong, maybe behind the ethical behavior of the market.
I don't think Silicon Valley is looking at all the important problems there. I think they only look at problems of certain types that serve their business models, either the venture capitals or the startups or large tech companies. I don't think they're altruistic enough to go say, let's go solve the problem for the world. That might be happening, and some of those things might be happening, but I wouldn't accept that. That's why Silicon Valley exists. Yeah, there are much better use cases of solutions in developing areas. Yes.
So maybe a comment.
This side is getting excited.
Yeah.
Hands going up. Okay, good.
No, so maybe a comment about the homeless situation in San Francisco. So in San Francisco, there are 800,000 people living in the city, and 1%.
Yes.
Yeah, and 1% around 8,000 are homeless, which is a lot. I think the key, what I heard, because I went last week to the Healing Wells, it was a group of people coming to San Francisco and Silicon Valley to learn about innovation. And then they had a stop at the Healing Well, which is in the middle of the Tenderloin, where all the homeless people are.
Yes.
And they told the group, like, there is a downside of Silicon Valley. And what they said, there are a couple of issues. One is the housing prices, that it's so expensive to find a place to live, and because of the tech, the prices went up. And people in America don't tend to save that much money, so if you're not able to pay for your next month of rent, and you don't have the support group, it might be that you're then like being on the street. So I think they're trying to do their ultimate best to get more affordable housing. And then the second thing is there's a huge mental health problem. So I don't know how it is in your country. Here is very complicated. So it's not as easy as like one billionaire putting all the money in, because it's the right medication, the right treatment, the right doctors. and it's super complex for a homeless person to figure out like where should I go because I don't have the money for the medication and there's not really the right treatment. And then the third problem I think is the drugs problem. And like those three combined makes that it's a little bit of a mess. And I do believe that a lot of the CEOs of the tech companies are now like intimate dealing with the government, like the city of San Francisco, like how do we solve for it? But it's not as easy as putting the money on it. The other story, like the people in San Francisco, they can have meals 3 times per day. There are shelters that they can go to. People in San Francisco, they used to be very like giving money, and so it's like it's a nice place. If you have to live on the street, the weather is pretty okay. So that was also the reason why other homeless people from other cities came to San Francisco. So maybe that gives a little bit of a perspective on.
So it's a multiple contributing factors. Yeah? I mean, I was reading an article also yesterday or the day before. Someone writing an article comparing the homeless in New York behaving better than the ones in San Francisco.
Yeah, there was a time when the city gave $50 to homeless people per week or per month, and there were people from Sacramento who would take a bus to come here and collect $50. There were a lot of bad incentives. So what are you going to do differently now that you've been here for 4 days and learned many different things? Yes.
Okay. This is my first time to Silicon Valley, and I'm 70 years old. Okay, so to me, technology, I'm just ignorant. Okay, so anyway, it gave me a very open eye, where innovation, all levels, entrepreneur, tech people. Where the excitement is here, where they combine. Because I feel that to my impression, tech people usually not so entrepreneurial. They
engineers are
right. Yeah, they're more. So lots of times, like I think Google, at one time they brought a former CEO.
Yes.
That's enterprise person.
Yes.
Where he managed, okay, and then I think Google was successful.
Yes.
Because of that, So this made me a feeling that anybody can be innovative, So it's just how to match, So I think the happening here is that the engineer, and the entrepreneur people, they match and then create the. So this is. I think anything can, although certain things that I come across, I feel that it may not be suitable in our country or at the present moment, but then it will give us some brain to think about what is our present industry. What should we innovate?
Yes.
There are lots of ways to innovate. So this is, I think this is a very good trip for me. Anyway. Although I know nothing about I just know, AI, blockchain, or whatever, That's it, okay? So I'm very happy about this trip.
That's very nice. Very powerful words.
All the, I think, good, very smart people, all the smart people. Even, I think you are one of the smartest there.
Oh, no. I'm just an investor. The smart people are the entrepreneurs and the technology leaders. There's actually this convention that when 5 entrepreneurs come together, what's the value of the company? And the value of the company is $1 million per engineer and minus $1 million per an MBA.
Right.
So that's the 5 people with 4 engineers and 1 MBA, value would be $3 million. Keep the MBA or it's $4 million. There is certainly a lot of value for engineers. In technology engineers, people who can code have the ability to build things on their own.
How did you turn into a venture investor?
How did I turn into a venture investor? I view myself as a coach. Like I'm on the sidelines. I never want to be in the front page of a newspaper. Even doing this is kind of stretching my limits. Like, I don't want to be in front of an audience and talk. But my teaching side has helped me become more comfortable with this. But my nature, my personality and everything is about helping someone else achieve the potential. And working with some of the most brilliant people, incredibly smart people, is an honor to have the opportunity to help them unlock potential. That I see very fulfilling. That's what I do. So to me, it feels like I fell into venture, and I wasn't really looking for an opportunity or a job, but it just happened. And some of the best VCs that I've worked with are very simple. They have that approach of they want to help entrepreneurs unleash their maximum potential.
I think from what we have seen, there has got to be a good pool of mentors available.
Yes.
And that is willing to share. That's where I think it may be lacking where we are coming from. Because we don't have that.
Yes.
I think the ecosystem here is good. So it brings us a lot. I think there are a lot of talents as well where we come from.
Yes.
Except that maybe I am a good inventor, but I don't know how to commercialize the product.
So people ask the question, what's the one thing that makes Silicon Valley successful? There's actually no one thing. It's the ecosystem. It's the entrepreneur who is brave enough to say, I'm going to quit my job and start a company. And the investor that says, I'm going to invest in an entrepreneur who is unproven, his or her best is in the future, and I'm going to bet on that. Without a product, without any proof, I would make an investment. It almost feels like charity, the risk that they're taking. And then you have vendors who would supply to this company on some 30 days, 60 days, some terms that are so generous. And then there are customers who would, if you look at, I don't know if you used, anybody used iPhone 3 or iPhone 2 in the early days? So you were more advanced. Like I used iPhone 3, you couldn't copy paste text messages. Yeah, you couldn't copy paste. If anybody, so think about the amount of abuse that Apple did on its customers. You couldn't copy paste a message that you typed. That's the amount of simpleness in the product that they put out in the market, and people were willing to try. People were so forgiving. Customers and users, they're so okay with failures. And that's why Bill Gates was successful. Microsoft shuts down so many times and people still use it because people are very forgiving, especially the first set of the early adopters. And that you find a lot in the Silicon Valley. When the electric cars came and Toyota released hybrid cars, they had allocated, they'd done a lot of research and they allocated a lot of cars, some in the Silicon Valley. They ran out of stock in Silicon Valley in 3 months. While in other cities, in Houston and Chicago, they were still inventory. They moved all the inventory to Silicon Valley, it was all again gone. So the demand for new ideas, when people will try, they will buy a box and put it in their house and do different things. That mentality is drives. It's the ecosystem of all these players coming together, and let's not forget the government. DARPA is one of the early influencers that created Silicon Valley. The government funding, military as a customer, all those grants enable Silicon Valley to become what it is. We don't pay a lot of homage to that aspect of it. That's why I feel that government is above all else, and they actually do the best service, especially in the Silicon Valley and all over the world. It's true. So it's the collection of all of these things coming together. I hope it stays, and I hope it spreads all over the world. And you take some of it from here and to your part of the world. Do we have time for more questions, or do you have more questions? If we don't, we can wrap up.
Can you share with us how you became how Sure Ventures was formed? What were you doing here, and what was your journey? Subsequently becoming a venture capitalist.
How much time do you have? 5 minutes. Okay. Only 5 minutes for my story?
You're going to have to compress it.
I started Sure Ventures because I saw an opportunity. There are 2 things that I was looking for. One is I wanted to start a business which I could stay with for the next 20 years. A venture is a long-term game. It is, I won't see results of my work for many, many years. And the first fund is only a foundation to start the second fund, the third fund, and it goes on. So I wanted something that I can be with for many, many years. So that was the one reason. And the other is I wanted a business opportunity. I wanted to see a market opportunity that was so big that will allow me to build a business one fund at a time and stay for many, many years. So I found this opportunity in Insurtech, and that made a lot of sense. So just like how fintech startups have disrupted banking, payments, wealth management, and many other things, similar to that, startups in insurance, focusing on insurance sector will transform the world of insurance. That's the thesis that I came up with. And I really liked it. I saw that the insurance sector as a whole is about all the insurance companies collectively put together gather about $5 trillion of premium, global premium. And that industry has had nearly no innovation. It's stuck in decades-old products and services, nothing has changed. Policy administration, core systems, fraud detection, how do you sell insurance policies, distribution, even the products themselves, how they are designed, all of those things are just stuck in old school or legacy systems. So that I felt like, okay, I can build a business here that will last for a very long time. And personally, it would be very satisfying to enable efficiency in this world because this industry touches people's lives at highs and lows. Now, when you get married, when you have a child, when you buy a house, when you have a car accident, when you're sick, all of those are like high points and low points in life, and that's when insurance shows up and helps you. That to me was like two things that I care about: my personal satisfaction and impact having the work, and also macroeconomic impact and having a big difference in how business works. So combining the two was very, very interesting for me. So I decided to start Sure Ventures. So prior to starting Sure Ventures, I was with two different funds. I was with USAA's corporate venture group. That was a $350 million fund. I invested in fintech and insurance tech. And before that, I helped start a corporate venture program at a company called Altera, which is now part of Intel. So the portfolio is with Intel Capital. So between these two firms, I invested in about 15 companies. I am an unusual investor. I haven't had any failures. So every time I invest in an entrepreneur, I tell them that I've had a 100% success track record. So you need to, no pressure, but you need to perform really well. So I invest with companies like Coinbase, Personal Capital, Prosper, Living Company, those kind of companies, and also some of the smaller companies which I'm more excited about: Robin Systems, Boostify, those kind of companies. I like very early stage companies, Series A or earlier. That's what I plan to focus on. I mainly focus on seed stage and pre-seed stage investments. So my success, I've had a little bit of success, but I would say majority of that goes to the entrepreneurs who build amazing businesses. I just got very lucky to work with some of the best entrepreneurs in the world. So I hope that luck continues and I find more good entrepreneurs.
How much of investment range for
the size of the fund? So my plan is to raise a small fund first. I'm the only partner in the fund. My plan is to raise $5 million and I'm about halfway through that now. The second fund will be about $25–30 million, and I want to bring a few financial services companies as LPs. So in addition to investing, I can give insights and access to innovation, like what trends that are happening, ideas that could be potentially useful for strategic partnerships. Building that bridge is what I did the past 10 years, and I love doing that. Having that actually makes it more interesting for me as an investor. If I just made investments and bet on entrepreneur and wait for returns 10 years later, to me that feels like gambling, like Las Vegas bet. I'm not doing anything, I'm just betting on the entrepreneur, and after that I just wait for returns. It's not as fulfilling. But when I create the bridge between the startup and the large company so that there's conversation between the two, which is why I like plug and play as well. So that's very fulfilling. That to me feels like I'm building a business. I'm adding value. So that's what I plan to do for the second fund. And beyond the second fund, we'll see how it goes. Yes? I think human beings are incredibly creative in finding good use of technology. I believe that we will find ways to put technology to good use. But the venture capital sector itself, it's what you read, 90% of what you read in the newspaper is not relevant. It's actually sensational stuff. The real world of how venture capital works is very close. It's like cottage industry. You need to get invited to private events and dinners, and what is said within closed groups of board meetings, no one gets to hear about it. Having that knowledge is very, very important to be successful in venture. I get invited to invest in these, and I invite other people to invest in these, and there are ways to do that, and there are some nuances around it. As a dumb investor, if I showed up, I would get invited to deals, but the result of that investment would show up and blow up 5 years later. I won't know why or how, and it's a long life cycle to learn. It's an apprenticeship business. It's not easy to learn from a book or a class. You have to do it to learn it. So all of those things, I don't think any of those things are going to change.
From a financial landscape perspective, people would lend anymore. People go for investments, the word investing. So people are receiving money, not through borrowings, but rather invest in them.
Equity investment instead of a debt? Yes. So all of venture capital is based on equity investment. So that to me is one of the signs of the best investors. Their success is aligned with the success of the entrepreneur. So for a venture capital investor like me to win, the first step is the entrepreneur has to win. They have to be successful. The second step is my investors have to win. My investors have to generate good returns for themselves. And only after that, I win. So I'm third in line. Unless the entrepreneurs win, I cannot win. Unless my investors win, I cannot win. So my incentives are aligned with that. All right. Good. For our time, thank you very much. I look forward to inviting you here and coming back. Yes.
When the next trip to Kuala Lumpur,
we can have coffee. Certainly. I will meet you in Kuala Lumpur. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Laura. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I hope you liked it. Big round of applause. So we have another 15 minutes, so if you want to mingle around and maybe have a drink, and we will leave like around 9:30. Oh, Silly, you want to say something?
Okay, Raji, this is for our Malaysian delegation. This message is only for them. Rajiv is already on the way there.